Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Observable Flutter. My name is Craig Labenz, and I'm your host. And today we are going to be talking about Dart code metrics, better known as DCM. And I'm very excited to get into this. I've heard about DCM for a long time. I have not personally played with it myself. I have not even installed the CLI, but today may very well be the day that I add DCM to my workflow. We're all going to find out together. All right. So first of all, I want everyone to remember that this is the Flutter community. So let's be great as we know that we can be. So today's guest is the founder and CEO of DCM, Dart Code Metrics, and his name is Dmitry Zhifarsky, and he's joining us today live from the country of Georgia. Dmitry, welcome to Observable Flutter. Would you like to say a few words to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. First of all, hello everyone. My name is Dmitry. Yes, I'm currently working on DCM, a tool static analyzer for Dart and Flutter, and today we are going to kind of go deep into what it does and what it does, why it does what it does. And yes, I'm in Georgia and been building the tool for the past like 2.5 years, and happy to be here today and to talk about it. Thank you.
Yeah, very happy to have you as well. So, okay, Dart Code Metrics, DCM, it's a bunch of additional analysis for code quality. I remember back in the day when I was a Python developer before I switched to Dart, there were these different extensions. Pylint was the main one, and it had a bunch of extra knowledge and ability to say like, hey, this function's too long, or you have too many branching logic, too many branches in your logic in this spot, or did you notice you have 12 parameters on this function? Obviously, Dart widgets have that a lot of the time, but I'm imagining that it's a lot of stuff like that. And yeah, so what kind of got you into this, and how correct is my mental model of DCM?
Yeah. Okay. Let me start with the second question. Yes, I think you're very close to what the tool does, but it's just a small part of it. So it's not just
Hmm.
about the lint rules, it's also about additional analysis that is usually not a part of a linter, but also gives you valuable like output from the state of about the state of your code base. For example, unused code, duplicated code, those things are usually separate tools, but in our case, it's part of one tool that covers different areas. As for what got me into that is first of all, my journey with Dart started a little bit differently from I guess most folks in the Flutter community, because I started with Dart Angular, not Flutter. Flutter though
Mm.
was a thing back when I started with Dart Angular, but still my main journey was Dart Angular at a company called Rike. And to be honest, I kind of fell in love with the language very quickly, but my relationships with the language are quite also, I wouldn't call it special, but with its own sideways, because at some point Reich was deciding between whether to keep Dart Angular or switch to React and TypeScript, and I was on a team who proposed to switch to React and TypeScript, not to keep the Dart Angular. And the main idea behind that was that it's better to use tools that serve you a particular, like help you achieve your goal, than stick with the tools, even though if you love them or like want to use them everywhere, mm, uh, it's wise to use tools that solve a problem, help your team
Hmm.
and company build the thing, than just keep Dart Angular. And unfortunately, at that point, Flutter was not supporting
The web.
not web. I think it was working already for the web, but
Hmm.
it was not supporting micro front-end architecture when you have multiple
I see.
apps. Yes, and that was a huge problem for choosing Flutter or
Yeah.
over like anything else. So yeah, and I think the app was 5 million of lines of code, and half of them was in a Dart Angular. Yeah, Rike is a very big app, so I think they still have Dart code, a lot of that, but yeah, they're migrating to React. I think still migrating to React, even though it was like 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. Four,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. So again, but Dart, actually, I enjoy writing Dart. I like the language a lot. And why I mention Reich is that because actually at that point in time at that company, the first version of Dart code metrics was created, not by me, by other folks. Even the name of the tool was not chosen by me. I just kind of inherited it, and I joined the team working at Trike on that tool a little bit, like maybe 6 months after they started. Actually, it was started as a colleague of mine and a good friend of mine, also named Dmitry, for some
Mm.
reason. The universe decided that two Dmitry should work on the tool. Yeah, and we worked on it a little bit during our time at Trike. We posted a few articles, talked about the tool. At that point, it was an analyzer plugin. Right now, it's no longer, I mean, for 2.5 years, it's no longer a plugin, but at that point, it was analyzer plugin. And once we both left the company, we also took it with us, open sourced it, and make it we took it from like ownership and made the first version open source and available to everyone with under the MIT license and available to everyone. Yeah, and kind of worked on that open source version for some time together and with help of some folks from the community from time to time. But most of the time, it was just two of us working on the tool.
Hmm.
And at some point, I got the idea that I actually had that idea before that for some time. And I just decided that maybe the tool can be a little bit more than it is right now, not just showing like links and calculating metrics. It was not what it was, showing links and calculating metrics, but also doing other stuff. And but also not being a plugin, because the plugins have a lot of problems, unfortunately, with the memory, and it's a known issue in the community. I believe
Mm-hmm.
the plugins are kind of have their own downsides regarding the CPU and memory consumption and scalability in general. So, and back then it was even worse than it is right now, unfortunately. So at some point, I just kind of created a version 2 of the tool. It also was rebranded to DCM, not Dark Code Metrics, to kind of distinguish between them. But
Oh, I see.
yes, and but the Dark Code Metrics as open source version is still on the GitHub. It's archived, but it's available. Sources available. You can actually kind of clone it, update the dependencies into like fork, maybe partially. I actually don't know. I haven't checked how the
Hmm.
things are going in that regard. But while doing that, I actually also decided to keep the open source, the previous plugin version of the tool available to everyone, so that people can actually kind of take a look if they want to, and kind of continue using it if they want to use that version. Because what was required from them to basically update it if they wanted to continue using it. Yeah,
Got
so
it.
that's kind of the intro into the tool. Yeah,
That's how we got here.
yes.
Okay. So so it runs on one's machine. It's CLI to install. Like I mentioned, I haven't even done that yet, but I think we're going to start. You were going to walk us through some of what it does, and then at the end, I'm gonna install it and have it point at one of my old packages that I haven't touched up in a very long time, and just let it let it critique me to shreds.
Let's try. Yeah.
But yeah, if you're ready to share your screen, we can kind of get into the demo.
Yeah, let me just kind of start with the concepts, like what the
Sure.
tool a little bit, how at least I usually talk about it, is that, as you mentioned before, there are lint rules. The lint rules that are available in the tool are not available in Dart Analyzer or Linter. We kind of specifically build. Actually, let me just kind of take a step back and talk that my goal with the tool initially also was to have a team around the tool, like that builds the tool. And right now there are 3 core members of the team, and there are 2 part-time members of the team. And actually, this is really, compared to the open source version and the product we have right now, it's actually a joy to have people around you, like people on your team working with you on the tool, helping you with the things. Because when you build in the things, open source, you're usually doing that alone or with a little help of the community that appears and disappears. But with a product that actually also have some funding, you can have people full-time helping you. And I also want to give a shout out to Majid for helping me with the developer advocacy of DCM. Yeah, he's working. We have been working like for a year now on DCM. Yeah. Now to the tool. Back to the tool. So there are 4 core parts of it. If we kind of look from the very high view, first part is the lint rules. As I mentioned before, they are not available in the Dart analyzer or linter. It's by design. We are trying to not re-implement what is already available, but provide things on top of what is already available to kind of give more value. And the rules that we have are less opinionated, but we also made it configurable. So for example, we have a rule for member ordering, when you can sort the members of your widgets or classes, and it's completely configurable. You can choose to have fields first or constructors first or methods first. You can even differentiate between static fields or final fields or late static, late final fields or private methods. And even you can say, I want my build method to be the last or like the first, or any other method with a name to be in any other position. So that's the configurability I'm talking about, and that's what we offer for other rules as well. There is some shared configurability, but there is also like per rule unique configurability for those particular rules. So that's the first part. Lint rules are mostly for, again, detecting the like issues like when you write code, when you or doing code reviews, or in your day-to-day basically work. The second concept of the tool is code metrics. They are mostly for detecting problematic parts in your code base, but usually you don't know your code base very well. And because if you're working a team, for example, because you have a lot of code, and usually very few people or even none know how to know all the parts of the code base. And that's exactly where metrics can help you, because you can basically run the command against your whole code base and see all the places where the complexity is too high, or you have too many like imports, or the files are too long in some. And by combining those metrics, you can kind of very quickly like find those places that need your attention or need to be kind of isolated in your code base and taken care of later. So this is what metrics are for. The third component of the tool are refactoring commands. As I mentioned, linters usually don't only offer lints and fixes and stuff like that, but the refactoring commands that we have are for unused code, detecting code duplications, detecting unused or misused dependencies in your pub spec files. We also have commands for analyzing your assets in your apps. For example, you have many images, but you can set threshold in the command and say, we should not allow images that are like that have more than 300 kilobytes, that take more than 300 kilobytes, and the command will show you everything like that. Yes. And we also have commands for building like a list of all your widgets and showing the quality of those widgets, and similar subtrees of widgets. Then you can kind of find duplicated subtrees and kind of refactor that, or like reuse the same widget, something like that. It can help you something like that. Those the commands. And the fourth component is like the newest part of the tool is the dashboards that we have. They are for getting an overview of all the issues in your project in the web version of like we have a part of the tool called DCM console, where you can log in and just assign developers, but you also can view or upload the information from your projects, or maybe across your organization or just single project, and view all the issues, open issues, and how the metrics change over time, for example. That's the fourth part of it. So it's not just a linter, right? It's something To be honest, I actually sometimes struggle how to call it properly. How it should be called? Yeah, so it's right now it's an advanced linter, but maybe there is a better name for it. To be honest. Okay, so now let me start with the actual demo. I kind of gave an introduction. Let me share my screen and.
Yeah, I'm excited to see all these things in action.
Yeah. So, yes, I'll be using the macOS UI. By the way, for those who want to try the tool, we have multiple ways. First of all, we have a free plan. You can just use it straight away. We have a trial for paid plans, and we also support open source licenses for open source projects. So right now I'm using the macOS UI project. If you find it on GitHub and clone it and just install the extension and the executable and open the project, the DCM will not require any keys or license keys. You can just enable it, open the project, play around this configuration, or like do some check the commands. It will work just like that. So yeah, again, macOS UI if you want to test the tool right away. So let me start with the lint rules actually, and I'm showing the analysis options file. We have a
Real
separate
quick.
section.
Can you also lower the bottom half of the screen so
Yes,
get more?
sure.
Yeah, there we go.
We will need that later, but let me actually maybe remove some of the things. I will just comment them out. So again, I'm showing the analysis options file, same file that you use for configuring the analyzer, but this is a section for DCM. And here is this list of rules. So it looks very similar to what you have with the Dart Analyzer, but again, the rules are different. And we also have simplest way to get started with the tool is basically to have, let me even show you how it works. To basically have only 3 lines in the configuration. And those 3 lines will enable the recommended preset. You don't need to install any package. You don't need to do anything else. Those presets are built into the tool. And those 3 lines enable 140 recommended rules in the project. And if we go, for example, open something, for example, this rule that we have is shows that you can use dedicated methods instead of using the off, maybe off, which is one of the newest changes, right? And you can also quick fix it. So very similar experience to the Dart Analyzer again, but there are more, the rules are different. And let me just try to show something else. So for example, we have a rule that suggests moving a variable closer to where it's used. So in this case, it's declared on top, but actually is used under a condition, I think. Let me check. Yes, so it's used down here, and you can, and this rule suggests that if you can basically move it here, and it will only be instantiated or when you assigned when we get into this condition. And in other cases, it won't be.
Right.
So this is
Smart.
another example. What else? For example, if you have animation or some other type of fields that require to be disposed, this rule dispose fields shows you that some fields are not disposed. You need to add them to the. Let me check if there is. It doesn't even have the dispose method at all. So you need to dispose manually those fields because they will introduce a memory leak at some point if you don't do that often. Yeah, and in this case, for example, we have a rule for shadowing. If you have a field with the same name as we have a field in this widget called button rect, and we have a method that declares a parameter with the same name. It shadows the existing field, and you can easily introduce an error by using the wrong thing. So there is a rule that suggests actually, you should probably rename this parameter because it can lead to a mistake. We also have a rule, for example, for unused parameters, and you can also fix this, for example. And to be honest, there are many more. We right now have 417 rules that show different errors or style issues, etc. let me maybe show a few more just in this particular code base that we have. So a rule, for example, for that the return type can be made non-nullable. That is that. And to be honest, there are just multiple things for memory leaks, for nullability, for async code. And so, for example, for a rule for having keeping only one widget in the file, if you would like that. Something maybe something else. Just a moment. Okay, for example, you have a equal else, if and else branches. And it's usually either a mistake or it can be simplified and the else branch can be removed. Supposing again, something maybe. Moment. We'll find this is also single widget. It's commas shadowing. Undisposed instances is similar to fields, but if you create an instance that is not assigned to variable and then there is no dispose called, it's also memory leak, for example. But yeah, for everyone who wants to check out the list of rules, it's just tcm.dev/docs/rules, and there is a list of all the rules available with the configuration. Actually, let me get back to the configuration part. So this enables just 140, and if we have this section rules, we will also have some additional rules. And this is how our configurability looks like. Also, let me move the member ordering rule as an example of configurability. And
so I have a question here. As we're looking in this band usage section, and we got entries, name, media, query, can I put any class there?
Yes. So this basically takes, you can even put the regular expressions in a separate, I think it's called name pattern or something like that, configuration option. And you can put regular expressions. It will also highlight yes, this is fully configurable. You can have any name. You can even scope it to a particular file. You can scope it to a particular folder if you'd like. You can use the severity, error, for example, for just this entry, and have maybe some other entry, let's call it safe area, do not use to, and have a warning for that, and then save, and it will just reload, and you should see that safe area is highlighted with our message and as a warning, and if we call it an error, let's say, it should be an error. Yes, it's an error.
Nice.
Yes, and you can basically configure anything you want. It's just one rule, and it's just one rule. So for member ordering, as I said, you can have a different configuration. I think it should be right. Let's just say we want the build method to be first, right? For some reason, I don't know why, but who would want that? And it should get picked up, and I don't see it right now, to be honest. Or maybe no, it should be working, to be honest.
Well, do you have? Oh, I didn't catch it. You just deleted.
Yeah, sorry, I deleted the part that could have been. I don't.
So is it actually wrong? Like
no, I think there is something.
No. Is it actually breaking the rule?
It's true
no
because
const fields.
The field that is the last.
But nothing else that appears in the list is in the widget.
Oh, yes, you're probably you're probably right. Let me check.
So add in its state.
That's actually a correct behavior. Yes, we have 1,000. Yes, so yes. Thanks for saving me. Yes, that's correct. And actually, that's correct behavior for the rule. If there is nothing before that, then it cannot compare the order, right? That makes sense. So now we see the rules saying that build method should be before any field, and we can also sort the so the constructor is first because we didn't list it. We don't have it here, but the build method is now first, and the fields are last, right? Sorted as we want them. We can also fix this rule by running dcm fix. and it will also fix the order for us. So best case scenario, you enable. So when you start with the tool and you want some custom order for your widgets, you have a lot of code, you don't know how to get started, get used to, like, start quickly, but you can just enable the configuration of the member ordering. You can apply the DCM fix command to your whole project, and it will automatically reorder everything. You can just go with that new order, or like fixed order in some cases if you already had some checks for that, and just continue with a new order just the moment you start with the tool. Let's say that.
And I imagine there's basically an enum of values that can go under the.
You mean this?
No.
This is not
Yeah.
email. That's actually a regular expression. I mean, it's limited to the number of combinations, but it's a regular expression. You can have, for example, let me remember the order. I think it's late final fields. You can have static fields. You can have, let's say,
but surely there's a limited number.
Yes, the number is limited, but it's not kind of hard coded into the rule itself. It uses basically it uses regular expressions to parse the string. But yeah, the overall like number of combinations is limited. Yes, but the tool, you can use, for example, factory constructors if you want.
Wow.
You can differentiate again, and also names, or you can have a named field, for example, my field, something like that. And I mean, okay, let's have it my named field. Let's say use that, and you can basically reorder how you want.
So how do we add my named field to the widget such that it let's add it in the wrong spot, so not at the end.
Yes,
so that we can see it, like detect. So it'd just be my name. My name.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And it's currently, yes, and let's move it first, right? Yes, and now it says, just a moment, it should highlight. Why not highlighting? Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to battle VS Code, and I'm losing apparently. Okay.
Well, is the error that the other things are like they should be above it as opposed to it should be behind them? Is that what the error says here? Oh, you're restarting.
For some reason, I don't see the. Yes, I don't see the controls. I don't see the highlights. For some reason, VS Code doesn't show me the. Okay, I don't know why. Maybe something is wrong with the. Let me just do that so it doesn't complain. And now, if we fix the sorting, it will put the my name after the fields. But if we do this, it will say, it should say at least, yes, that my name is in correct order. Yes, and it will say that. Yeah, and you can do that basically with everything. You can do the constructors, with fields, with methods, whatever you want. How you want to see your order applied. You can have you can have different order in different projects if you want, for example.
I see. Okay.
That's configurability. There are different examples of configuration for different rules, but that's just one. Again, second. That was the first. That is the second example of the configurability. All rules have shared configuration. For example, excludes. You can exclude the rule for a certain folder, for example, or include it only for a certain folder, or set effort. Effort is needed for other commands to calculate how long it would take to fix the all issues of certain rule, for example. And there is also a configuration for ignorable. So you can say, I actually want the rule to not be ignorable by any comments or any ignore comments, right? And then you won't be able to ignore the rule when this configuration is enabled for that particular rule. Just unignorable state.
Got it. Okay. So you're not kidding with that one.
Yeah. So this is the rules, and since again we have 413 of them, you would probably want a way to actually get the overview of the rules, right? We have a command for that. It's called CME need preview. Sorry, I need to pass the folder. right? And it gives you a list. Let me also close that. Yes, it gives you a list of all rules we have, or you can configure the list. For example, let me do that right away so that we don't kind of scroll through all. You can say that you want to see only no empty violations. It will show only the rules that have at least one violation in your code base. So you run the tool and it will show you like the number, the name of the rule, the warning, the time to fix all the issues from the effort,
Yeah.
if it's auto fixable, and also the link to the docs. And you can just basically get a quick preview before you even start using the tool to be aware of how many issues you have in your code.
Wait, so the effort thing, that's like what,
Mhm.
an estimate for how long it would take you to refactor it
Yes,
manually?
yes, yes. There are built-in numbers chosen by us, but you can configure it for each rule separately. As I showed here, you can say, for example, it's 10 minutes to fix each issue, and then it will affect the number here. You will see a different number.
Oh.
And
Haha. I wasn't quite following what the effort meant earlier, but now I get it.
okay,
So it thinks it's going to take you like a day, 24 hours to fix all your 350 odd magic strings, like at the top. There's like what,
yes. I
349 or
mean,
something? Or
yes,
380.
because yeah, it usually takes. I mean, in the magic, no magic string rule is about inline strings in your like
Right,
code, right?
right.
And if you have, for example, you need to move it to localization, it usually takes you to figure out what the string should be, where it needs to be placed, what to use instead of that inline
Yeah.
string, etc. So it's kind of it probably won't take that long, or maybe it will. It's actually unclear, but it will definitely take some time to figure out how to approach those
Right.
cases.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you can also have a different views for the command itself supports like a huge number of parameters. For example, you can say set a specific tag, a version of the tool, a package. We have rules for Flutter, for Dart, for provider, for blog, for
Oh.
Flutter hooks, for reader for getix, even though some people in the community might not like that, but we have rules for getix as well. And you can kind of scope those rules to how you want to see, how like to the number you want to see, to the number you want to have, and then kind of run the command to get the wanted list of rules violations or like the issues. Also, let me show you one part of that command. It supports different output formats, and you can say that actually give me just a moment. Anti-violations for analysis options. And it gives you a format, an output in the analysis options compatible format, which you can just copy and place into your analysis options config and just use it as is. And you also see all the numbers in the comments. That's another part. So this is the preview command, which kind of helps you get started with the tool, get started with all the issues and rules. But when you also start with a linter, it's usually the hardest part is to get it integrated into your project, not to kind of use it day to day. And for that, we have another command that's called DCM init baseline, which generates a JSON file, a baseline with all existing issues, so that you can basically ignore everything that exists in your project the moment you start with the tool, and only address new issues, for example. And you will need to address existing issues only when you change the exact code, the area the issue, the old issue exists. So, for example, right now we have a baseline file in JSON. It has all the files with the issues and all the issues listed. It's also in a readable format, so you can update, you can remove parts of the baseline
Uh-huh.
yourself, the rules, for example, or the files, and it will enable. It will start showing issues for those particular files. For example, if I open the back button, it has 0 issues, as you can see, no highlights. And if we open again the baseline, we remove, for example, this section, save it. You'll probably need to restart the analysis server. And now you see the issues, right?
Yeah. Okay. So you
And
don't
if I
have to spend a whole week just refactoring everything and tidying everything up to start using DCM.
Yes, you can just start right away. And again, if I change the code, right, I return the line here. I can just write something. I will create a new function or something, right? It doesn't get highlighted. It says, but once I change the area, it then will show you that there is an issue. So it kind of helps you gradually, slowly, at your own pace, fix all the issues that you have.
Yeah.
That's the baseline part.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah. All right. I showed, I think, almost everything about the lint rules. That's fixes, configuration, baseline, preview. Yeah, I think there is no need to show the DCM fix in any other area. I think the member ordering part was good enough. Yeah. So that kind of covers the. And we also support, actually, one more thing. We also support, obviously, fix on save. So you can apply fixes from DCM on save in your IDEs. You need to enable the in VS Code. It's a settings JSON. You need to place, I think, something DCM fix all explicit. I don't remember the syntax, but you also can do that.
Okay.
And one more thing about linting, just right as we hear, we also have integration in our a separate setting in our IDE extensions that enables throwing unused code in your IDEs like as a lint rule, because by default Dart analyzer doesn't show you publicly unused code. Our tool has a setting for that. It's a separate setting because it's not finished in some parts, but it kind of shows already a lot of useful cases. So in this case, we have a field, public field items. That is, if you look for references, for example, it's not used anywhere. It's just passed here and it's declared as a field. So we can safely remove this field, and or we can, for example, have it referenced somewhere. So it's all gets yes, and then the warning will disappear. So for the public field, or we can even use it in another file, another place. The warning will still disappear.
Okay. Yeah.
This is a separate. It's not a lint rule exactly, but it shows you also in the same way unused code.
So
your whole project.
This kind of is a segue into two different questions. One that just came in and one that we had from earlier.
Okay.
I think I can imagine the answer to this first question, but I'm going to let you field it anyway. What happens if some of the rules conflict?
What happens if the rules? First of all, it usually doesn't happen because most of the rules are built in a way that they're not conflicting with each other, at least. But if that happens, usually the rules that are conflicting, they have configuration options that help you kind of make them work together in your case. Because usually the conflicts are in the very specific areas. For example, the rules highlight two rules, highlight same field in different states. For example, you have a name. We have a rule, for example, to name the fields. If a field is a Boolean, you need to name it as is, has, or something like that. And you might have another rule that applies to the same field when it's renamed to has or is. In that case, you can just kind of tweak the configuration of both rules, and then it will probably work very well.
Got it. Okay. Next question. What lints do you think save people the most debugging time? Because in some lints are obviously more about style, and then there are lints that can unearth nasty bugs. You mentioned the shadowing variables lint a minute ago.
Yes.
I imagine that's a big bug
squasher.
But what are some other ones?
I can actually share my shared documentation right now, and I think it will be a better way to answer that.
Okay.
I will stop, right, and I will get back with the documentation. Share screen, rules, right, yes. So on our documentation, we have different, again, categories, tags, versions. You can filter all everything. And I think for the question about like problems, first of all, again, the recommended preset mostly focuses on fixing potential issues. So for example, you have you can actually find so many issues in the code. So I don't even know where to start. Let me start with the first of all, probably the performance part. So here is a simple example for if you use the map key contains instead of map contains key, because so this is an iterable, the performance difference is benchmarked to be 6,000 times slower than contains key. So for example, you can have those type of rules and those type of issues in your code. You usually don't have that. We actually have I think the issue and the benchmark here in the issue that it usually shouldn't happen, but if it happens, you can easily kind of slow down your code.
Yeah.
And other cases, for example, this is also a case with Flutter when you have opacity and image asset. This is actually not the most performant way to do the opacity. You should use always stopped animation. There was discussion on Twitter about that. And it actually also improves the performance of your opacity widget cases not significantly. And there are other cases, for example, this is from Flutter documentation that you shouldn't pass a new instance of a future to future builder. It leads to problems. You need to have a field that pass the field to the future builder. This is also something that can be. But if I'm talking about the
That future
potential.
builder one is a huge pet project of Randall's to educate the whole world about the danger of rebuilding the future for your future builder.
Yeah, and actually that's one of the cases for the lint rules, is that you don't need to explain to your team, to your like colleagues that some kind of edge cases or like onboard them with new changes in the language. You can just enable the rule. In that case, it will be for futures, and you'll just see that from the tool in the IDEs, and they will never like forget about that. They shouldn't do that, like for example. And it applies to other rules as well. You can just share knowledge quickly without interaction and without taking time, like to switch into that discussion over and over again.
Well, that's good, because I'm doing everything I can in life to avoid interactions. Just kidding.
Yeah. For developers, that might be one of the ways.
Could be actually true.
Yeah, that's fair. So about we have a tag for correctness that usually focuses on the issues. And let me just find something interesting here, because there are so many rules I can basically talk about. Actually, one of my the rules that I actually really like is the rules for type assertions. For example, this is the one for unnecessary one. So for example, you have a field or a variable that of a certain type, and it's already of the type you're trying to test against, and it's unnecessary. You can just remove it. So it applies to var type or to just is checks and or patterns, for example. But this is not that kind of scary, but you can also have an unrelated assertion when the types never overlap, but you are kind of trying to do that, and right now it's basically a dead code. So this rule shows that if something is a string and you try to check it if it's an int, it never happens, and the rule will highlight you that case instantly. You don't need to think twice about it. Same to patterns.
Yeah.
Etc.
See, that is actually really nice, because when you look at this example, it just feels really contrived. Like, why would anyone write that code? But of course, in big code bases, it's very easy to get confused, or maybe you refactored it and it used to be an int and blah, blah, all kinds of things. So yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, because usually you change in a code base that is relatively big. You change even code that, or maybe of your colleague, or that's been there for a few years, and you might not even notice that something's wrong. And the rule is exactly here to help you with that.
Man, I'm really excited for all the things at the end when we load up some of my really old code and unleash DCM on it. There's going to be a lot of problems, I bet.
It will be fun, yes. So, for example, the rule for unused generics, right? You edit a generic at some point, it's never referenced. Is it a bug? Is it just a leftover of refactoring? You just see something like that.
Is there also one for the accidentally leaving out a generic if you always, this class has a generic and you accidentally declared it or instantiated it, but didn't supply the generic. Is that
Actually,
a
that's
rule?
supported by the analyzer itself. Yes, you need to enable
Oh,
strict. Yes, it will highlight you if it gets a dynamic type. It will highlight you that hey, you need to pass the type into the generic
okay,
argument.
great.
Yes, yeah. So that's already
I need to
supported.
I need to find that one, turn it on everywhere.
Yeah. So a rule, if you instantiate a class and it's never gets assigned or like it's just instantiated and nothing happens with it, it's usually also a type or just a like bug. But you need to assign the class to a variable to return it from the instance from the function or something. Yeah. So it basically covers all different cases, duplicates, unused things, things that are passed like. Again, equal conditions, for example, if you have a condition and you have another one somewhere down, it just highlights you that this case will never match because this will always be matched in the checks and so on. And
Yeah.
to be honest, I think for Flutter folks, it will be even more useful to start just with the Flutter rules, right? For rules for copy views, for not removed listeners, empty set states, I don't know, you can use your flexible opacity as we talked in just different things for accessibility, missing image, semantic labels, etc. So a rule that
Nice.
bans returning widgets from your functions, from getters, etc. It's also very, at least it was some time ago, a very heated topic about whether it's applicable or correct to use functions for returning widgets, and this rule actually kind of helps you at least enforce that practice in your team.
That's funny. Yeah, I think I overly contributed to a monolithic thinking on
Yeah,
that
yeah. I think
topic.
actually this rule mentions the video of yours, I think, or some. Yes, or there was some. Yes,
Something,
I think
yeah.
there was a video. Yeah, and it's maybe in the docs. Yes. So yeah, this is kind of the rule. So if you want to, again, getting back to the question, if you want to find the rules that are most useful, you would usually want to scope them to the either recommended preset or to the correctness tag or memory rigs, performance, something like that,
Yeah.
or filter them by severity of warning. That will also kind of scope it because rules like member ordering or arguments ordering or style rules will not get into the warning severity anytime.
Nice. Dang.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
very robust.
Yeah. If there are any other questions for the rules, I can answer them, or we'll get to the metrics.
No, yeah, let's go. Let's move on to metrics. I think we're good on questions for now.
Okay. So let me stop sharing for a moment, and actually, I might just use that page as well. There's so many rules. Yeah. Okay. So the metrics are second part of the tool, right? They are more about overviewing, and we have metrics for example, cyclomatic complexity, maximum nesting level, number of parameters, number of used widgets, for example, widgets nesting level. If you want to find very complex widgets, you basically want to enable nesting level, number of used widgets, and maybe cyclomatic complexity, and you will get all those places highlighted just in a very quick way. So let me actually change the tab if I can. Yeah, let me share and share again. I will show the report that the metrics have. So all our commands, including the metrics, have different types of reports, but metrics along other commands have along two other commands. Metrics, assets, and widgets have an HTML report that shows you in a more like where you can actually get an overview, better overview of your problems. It shows the report where you can get the better overview. So right now we have 6 enabled metrics. It's the same project. I just generated this report before the stream. 6 enabled metrics: cyclomatic complexity, depth of inheritance tree, nesting level just for the code, number of parameters, and widgets nesting level. And it basically highlights you all the numbers for different folders. You can sort them. Let's, for example, get to the widgets nesting
So
level.
what are the numbers in the cells of the table? Because some of the
Yes, they
number, is
are.
it the number of occurrences?
Yeah, so there are a number of occurrences also. So metric in a nutshell is a number, right? So you can choose basically a threshold. For example, you want to say, I want the cyclomatic complexity to be not higher than 30, let's say. And this number of violations shows that you have two cases in your code base
Yeah.
where the number of cyclomatic complexity is higher than the threshold that you set. And then you have also the different numbers for the minimal number, maximum number, average number, and sum of all the cyclomatic complexity. And it applies to all the metrics. Some of them don't have different additional numbers, but all have violations if there are any. And then we can just scroll down to the code itself and hover and see the cyclomatic complexity is higher. For this case, it was 20 as a threshold, and this shows 23 is higher than 20. So this is a violation for the metric. And same for the, let me see the nesting level. So where is, yeah, there is the build method of the widget, and it says that there are 11 nested widgets. Actually, I don't know if you want to count them. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I think I counted something else, but there are around, let's say there are around 12 or 11, so this is probably correct. Yeah, so it shows that then, I think the configured number was either 5 or 10 in this case. So it shows that this widget, this build method of this widget has like the nesting that violates the threshold, and you should take a look into that widget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think it was the right number, by the way, because I thought we counted 12 widgets, but it said 11 nested. So if the mouse region on the outside wasn't contributing, then
yeah, that's also might be the case. Yes, and you can just go through all the files in the project and just kind of look into all the different cases and quickly find highlighted cases, and if you either deal with them or like schedule or figure out what to do with them, etc. Yeah. And we have 22. You can enable all 22 metrics. They will be listed here and in the table. And you can go through all 22 metrics, for example, and check what's wrong with your code base. But it also important is that with the rules are basically either enabled or disabled, right? And metrics are more about choosing your numbers that work for you, that you want to see in your code base. So it's usually, because it doesn't really make sense to adhere to some number that someone else chose for you. It's usually works better if you say, okay, we are committing as a team to use that particular number to not violate it. Let's kind of do that. That will bring more.
And where do you configure
value.
those again? I presume in the
let me then share again the IDE
analysis file. Yeah.
Just a moment. Yes, you can share the metrics in the you can share the you can configure them in the IDE. Here's how it looks like. Let me uncomment that and uncomment it again.
Aha.
Yes.
Right.
And then,
I remember this from the beginning now.
Yes. So you can set the numbers. You can also use the threshold option if you don't like the syntax, and you also can set effort if you want. So you can say again, fixing something will take you some particular number, and then you can kind of also understand like how long it will take you to fix all the violations of a particular metric.
Well, 5 classes of the inheritance tree, that would be a lot.
I don't know. Actually, you mean a lot of cases or a lot?
Is that it? Does threshold there mean that a class has 4 or 5 like ancestor classes that it's extending and implementing and whatnot?
Yes, and if it has more than 5,
be a lot.
Yeah, actually, I think the number is quite small when it comes. If you use an external package, for example, I think I had a user suggesting that when they use, I think it was River code, because it has a lot of already pre-existing inheritance. Even you write your own widget, it already like inherits like maybe 6 or 5. I don't remember the case, to be honest. So it sounds a lot, but in some cases you already use a external package which already kind of has some hierarchy or implemented. Yeah, but for your own code, 5 is usually just enough, or maybe even too much. Yeah,
right. That's kind of more what I was thinking. But good point about you're inheriting, from stateless widget, which is inheriting from some other widget, or like
Yes,
render
yes,
objects are
yes,
inheriting
yes,
from tons of them.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true. So that's how metrics basically work and look. To be honest, we don't have an exactly the perfect documentation for them right now, and that's on our list. But I hope we'll polish the documentation as well. They need more examples, more explanation when to use which, etc. But yeah, the metrics. Kind of about that. So any questions about metrics, or should we move forward?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, so then the next part is, which is very close to metrics. I will show the widgets. Actually, for those who are watching, the metrics are basically another command, which is calculate metrics, or CM. Has also additional parameters. You can call it from the CLI, generate in your CI/CD if you want, etc. So another part that I wanted to show about the metrics and widgets in this case is our widget reporter, which helps you get an overview of all your widgets in the project, but also helps you find usages, helps you find similar widgets. So this is again against the same code base, macOS UI. Anyone can try that. The command is dcm NLS widgets, and in this report we can see basically the list of all widgets in the project. You don't need to modify the code base in any way. It statically analyzes and collects all the information itself. So no annotations, no nothing. It just kind of gets everything.
Okay.
And then it categorizes the list like by type. You can have a quality score and some additional metrics and usages and similar widgets. So let me open maybe some button page. So it shows you the quality score is based on metrics. You can see the configuration here, and it kind of calculates the metrics for all the methods, and then like sums them and shows you a number. It's more like maybe even complexity score, but quality just kind of better understood from by different folks, like maybe managers or but not technical. So the quality shows the metrics, the complexity, and you can even open the widget in your IDE from this report. You also have a list of widgets that are used in this particular widget. They are categorized by local widget. You can just jump into another report, for example.
And
Also,
so this is like, looks like a demo page within macOS UI. So it has like hundreds of widgets, or it has tons of widgets in it.
yes, but yes, but it doesn't kind of focus just on the how it looks, but more like
right,
how it is built inside. Yes,
right.
You can see all the widgets. You can see if they are from Flutter. You can also even open the source code in the IDE, GitHub, Docs. Just from that. Sorry, you don't. It's not share. Only the one page is shared, so it's not visible. But yeah, you can open the docs, open GitHub, and you can also see the resolved widget tree statically available. So if tool is capable of kind of collect all the used widgets, it will build a tree of the widgets and show you do it here. So you'll be able to
Oh my
kind of
goodness.
get a look. And you also have a source code here, full source code available for you to kind of also check. And the part that is available under a flag, you can see the similar widgets. For example, this says that 49% of this widget tree matches 49% of another widget called macOS back button. If you open that widget code, you will see highlighted widgets, which it says mouse region, right gesture detector, semantics, constraint box, fade transition, 5 widgets. And if you go to the source of this widget, you will see gesture detector, semantics, constraint box, fade transition, and mouse region.
Wait, how is this tool finding other widgets that have similar construction? That's like a huge many to many problem space.
Yeah, and yes, and if I show you the thing I'm kind of proud of is, let me share the IDE first quickly, because I want to show you how long it will take to build the report. CCM analyze widgets. Let's use sleep, reporter, HTML. Or actually, let's use the console. It's GC default one. Yeah, so that now actually, sorry, that's not correct. Show similarity. See, that would be the correct. So yeah, that's how long it takes to build that. What you have, what I've showed. It's really quick.
Oh my.
Yes, and yeah, I believe that in a larger code base it will take longer, obviously, but in this one it takes that much to build the
And is it only
matching part.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's only comparing them against the other widgets in your code base.
Yes, yes. So you can
So it's
scope it if you want, or you can include additional code if you also want. But yeah, if you run it from the root of your project or the mono repository, you will get a report for everything you have in your code base. Yeah, and
could you ask it to include like framework widgets?
no, right now, unless
No.
you
Okay.
pass, I think the pass directly to the command, but then it will probably analyze a lot of things. And actually, I have never tried that myself, so I don't know how it will work.
Okay.
But if you open the framework and run the command against the framework code, just the framework, it will work as for any other project,
I see.
obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, what I was thinking of is like the rule, the like there's a widget for that rule. Like, oh, I'm sorry, you've reinvented the blah 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 widget.
Yeah.
But
But actually, there
okay,
is you can do that. You can do that with the bind usage rule. But you don't need to do it manually, not automatically like that. Yes, this will give you more. I mean, you can through the rule bind usage, you can say that don't use that widget from Flutter, use our widget or something like that. But not like in that context. So yeah, it shows shows all. Actually, let me show you maybe some more. So you have more complex trees, right? They have conditional appearances. It also kind of includes them. It also have list widgets that are marked with children that mark differently in the
yeah,
resolved tree, and it can get way
interesting.
more complex than let me
This is
just.
crazy.
You can have this. This is, I think it's from examples, I think, or something like that. But this is the resolved tree. Yeah, this colors page, something like that. It's a huge diagram. Yeah, something. You can have something like this also available. To just it's also I think the examples. That's something not example. Maybe we can find something in. I think it's also example. Okay, so this is kind of how. Okay, this is the dialog. This is the production widget, not the example. This you can kind of get the whole tree visible, and then
Wow.
decide.
That those like conditional branches rendering, that is pretty slick. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
it took some time to implement, but I think the result was worth it because actually people write code in so many different ways. I mean, it's really hard to build a generic tool not knowing how people exactly will write their build methods. Some use like
Right.
variables, reassignments, conditions, conditional expressions. You need to kind of
Right.
be very imagine. You need to have a good imagine. Sorry, how it's called. You need to be imaginative, right? That's I think how it's
Yeah.
called,
Yeah.
imaginative to kind of understand all the different cases and to build them in to the.
So I do have a question about this
Mhm.
graph. If we look at the column right in the middle,
Okay.
and then there's 6 lines coming off of it, no, 7 lines.
Mhm.
Is the way to read this that like those top 3 widgets, the constrained box, the default text style, and the other default text style,
Mhm.
those widgets are guaranteed to exist. And
Yes,
then the
and
row is guarded by a conditional.
yeah, let's even check the code. Let's even check the code. We have that, right? So this is our build method. We have a
Okay.
dialog, container, constraint box, and now we have a column. And then we have, right, size boxes are not included into the report because that's usually used as a placeholder, right? It's not
Mhm.
really useful. Constraint box, unconditional, default text style, unconditional, and another one unconditional. And then you have
I
condition,
see. Yeah.
a row, and like another condition, another row,
Right. And
and
more condition.
another
Yeah.
condition,
Yeah.
yes, and then
Okay.
another condition, yeah. And all of those, I think, get into this. Yes, so row expanded, primary button as a parameter for the widget. Yeah, so this is
So
kind
does
of,
this drill all the way? Oh, it's just this build method. So of course it doesn't go into any
yes,
of the other build methods,
yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
It,
Right.
it would be crazy. I think it would be, first of all, unreadable. It would be
Yeah.
that would be really hard to calculate.
Yeah.
And I think the value is usually, I mean, I can see cases where it's actually really useful to build like the whole tree.
Mhm.
But
There's
calculating
also
that,
dev tools for that. So
yes, you can actually use DevTools. And I think, yes, this chart is mostly kind of complementing to the whole report to give you like more understanding. The DevTools, I think, kind of have the same, but actually more precise in terms of the runtime data. They don't show you something that is not in the tree, right?
right,
Because
right.
if it's, but it kind of shows you the exact tree, like
Yep.
runtime tree, which
Yeah.
covers
Kind of
different cases and can be,
complementary.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is yeah. So yeah. All right. I think that's for the widget analyzer. And again, you can have a console reporter, you can have a JSON, check style, GitLab reporters integrated into your CI/CD pipeline, and just fail the pipeline if you have low quality widget, for example, in your code base, something like that. All right, that's the widgets. I think I will get now to the other commands, and I will switch back to the IDE again. Yep, that's the today's switching. Okay, so I've showed the there's so far three commands. It's the init preview, init baseline, and for calculate metrics and the widget analyzer, analyze widgets. We also have the command for analyze, obviously, analyze sleep. You can, it's the same as for the same purposes in the Dart analyzer, but for our tool. And now let's look into other commands. First of all, the unused code. Check unused code. Code leap. Actually, let's use dot. So this command analyzes your whole code base and finds publicly unused declarations, for example, functions, constructors, fields, classes, methods, type defs, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
if something is unused, it will highlight you it's as unused. So we can kind of confirm that this field is unused. It's not referenced in any places.
Yeah.
Plus, this
Yeah.
command also shows you if something is used only in tests. It's not marked as usable for testing, but it's only used in the tests. So for example, this method of is, sorry, I scrolled down a little bit. Yes, so this method of is used only in tests, and it's usually up to the developer to decide whether they want to remove this or to mark this as visible for testing, and then the command will not report it, and it will be probably a proper usage that we have some code in production that is only for
Right.
tests and annotated
So
properly.
remind me, I lost track of one thing here,
Mhm.
which is basically just how are these different than what are we looking at now? And how are they different than rules? Like, why is that? Hey, this method is only used in tests, not producing a squiggly line, but it's in this report. Can you kind of
Mhm.
re-establish that
Yes,
context?
so the rules are usually operating on the file level. You can share state in through the analyzer part. You can share state, right? There are ways. In some rules rely on that as well. But the unused, and actually the unused code implementations that we have is actually relying on the. Let me
The
get
whole
back.
project.
Yes, or the analysis of whole project, right? The unused code in IDE. But by default, rules are scoped to files, and those commands, they collect all the data, all the info from the past folders. You can pass just one folder or two folders or
Mm,
how many you want, and it will collect, aggregate the data, and then calculate the usages based on that collected information. So it kind of requires more context than just intros to produce correct
mm.
results. That's the difference. That's the main difference, I think.
Got it. Okay.
Uh, yeah. So it shows unused code, only used in tests, and there are other commands like check unused files, check unused files. It's also available as a part of the IDE integration. You can highlight unused files in, yeah. So this is the example file. It shows that this file is not imported by any other file, and therefore is unused, can be easily removed. And it also will show you cases where this file is used only in tests. So if you import for some reason on file only in tests, and usually it's a test, and the main file, they are both can be usually removed because they only they are not
They're
the
dead
best
code.
for the they're dead code, yes.
Yeah.
And it also kind of calculates the cases with annotations. If you have VM entry point, right, it will exclude that and some other cases as well. And for example, other commands are dependencies. DCM check dependencies. It shows if some package in your pubspec is not imported in any like places in any other files. So in our case, it's mocktail and the presets are not used at all. It can be simply removed, or it's a bug. It's up to the developer to decide what is that. And if you, for example, have a dependency in the wrong place, the command will show you that you actually have a dev dependency that is imported into your production code, and you need to move that dependency into the regular dependencies for it to work properly. I mean, for it to be properly. Or if you have, for example, a dependency that is no longer referenced in your production code, the command will suggest you to move it down to dev dependencies, or remove it if it's not referenced at all. Okay, so that's the dependencies command. There is a set parameters command, for example. Actually, let me just show help really quickly. So this is the commands that are available. There are plenty of them. For example, for analyzing structure, analyzing digits, metrics to set, code duplication, dependencies, etc., parameters, unused code, unused localization, strings, unused files, and some other things for that. Let me actually show the unused the code duplication. You'll have a report that shows if you have duplicate methods, for example. Yes, so we have this method, and let's open that one, compare them. So yeah, they are duplicates. You can exclude overrides in the commands configuration, but in our case, those basically are duplicates. You cannot do anything with them if you want, or you can decide to move them, for example. This one's a little bit more, okay, this one is a little bit more, complex, and you can see it's also highlighted as a duplicate here in this widget as well. And this command also shows you duplicates in test cases. So if you have a test case that matches exactly, let me include tests. Test cases that match something more interesting. Just it's not even a test. This is okay. It's the same file, I think, right? That's why. Okay, like that. So we have a test case on the line 212 and the same exact test case on line 436. They might have a different name, but the body of the test is exactly the same. It happens, I think, more often than we want to, because if you have a lot of tests, it's really easy to forget or like duplicate something like needlessly, and then you have two tests that do exactly the same, or you forgot to update the test and it's now outdated and does the wrong thing. And we have in this project we have quite a few test cases that are duplicates. So they need to either be updated or deleted, etc. For example, they're all in one file, I think. The duplicates. Yep. So this is the code duplication command. Helps to clean up things quite fast. And
I'll be very interested to apply this to a bunch of my test suites and see like.
I think I will show.
Sometimes I suspect that just after some time goes by and I like forget what logic has been tested before, I'll I'll like rewrite test.
Yeah, that can also happen. Yeah, especially if you have a like long project that you work like for a long time, right? For years, maybe you can easily or you don't really work that often, and you don't
Right.
from time to time.
That's
And
where it
then
happens to me. Yeah.
yeah. So for this also, let me show another one. Just s- leave. So this command shows you different issues with the parameters. There are currently 8 of them. So for example, you have a parameter that is marked as nullable, but never gets null value. It usually leads to conditions that are never
Mm,
executed, but you you need to write them, you need to maintain them, you need to test against them, but you can just remove the null and remove the code that covers the null case and just be happy with it because it's never receives a value, a null value. This one is, for example, says that the height parameter always passed and can be actually made non-nullable. Also, it's another case. So you can say it's required, and you make the type non-nullable, and it will kind of simplify your code as well.
yeah.
Or you can
So one
have
one thought here, like this makes a lot of sense. That kind of a rule makes a lot of sense for
Mhm,
like an app, right? Where
mhm,
you know when you're calling your own stuff. But if you're working on a
yes.
package, you might pass the thing every time, but maybe you expect other people to not. And then I guess
Mhm,
you should do that in a test. So like that would be its own problem if you never passed null. But can you configure the where would
yes.
I configure these kind of rules as well?
You can, it's not exactly configuration, but the commands all, so if you have a package and you have public API for package and the private API of private implementation for package, you use
Mhm.
the SRC files, like to files in under SRC to export your code. The command, the parameters command, then use code and then use files commands, they by default, they analyze the whole tree. They don't take the exports into the calculations. But if we have, they all have a flag called exclude public API, and if you pass that flag, the command will only suggest you the
I
cases that
see.
are in the implementation part. And if something is exported, even transitively exported, it will skip it
Okay.
completely because it's a public API and it's a break and change, right? So
Yeah.
this shows 64. Actually, how many were there? It was so it basically threw a lot of things, but still kept 64 cases that are in the implementation part, not in the public API, direct or transitively.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Great. Great.
yeah, so this is, for example, the case when the parameter never gets a value. It can be simplified, so it's never. It can be either can be usually moved into the body of the function. Unnecessary nullable parameter can be marked non-nullable, and then nothing will break. And I think there are a few more cases default, but you also can enable additional flags for this command. So, for example, you can say, I want to see where all the parameters that have the same value, receive the same value. So usually that means that the parameter can be uh, so many. Okay. Actually, sorry, it's not so
Got you.
many. It's that it shows the default 3 checks and then it shows the fourth on top of that. Yeah, I forgot about that. I want to show explicitly that one case, but I'd probably not be able to do that. Okay. Actually, should be same. Actually, this one's okay. So it seems like this method is used in 2 places, right? Sorry, it's
Do you
not really
lower the
visible.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
perfect.
yeah. That's so this used in 2 places right now, and it gets active color and 20, and it also gets active color and 20. So this right now says that actually it's a duplicate of if else, yes, but still, this command now said that this parameter receives like the same value in all the usages, so it should probably be updated, either moved to the body of a function or like changed
Mm,
somehow, or there is probably a bug and you have multiple cases, there should be different cases. That's
right.
how it works. Maybe something else. It's the same, but same case. In this case, it says that clock height is always gets the same. Okay, it's only one. Yeah, it's only one instance, and it always gets the same parameters. So it says yes. Okay. And there are other flags for that, other checks under the flags. For example, if you have a broad type, you say maybe an object or a widget, and you only pass one case where it's a particular widget or like it's narrower type, int or something else, this flag will show those cases. So you can kind of make the API of a function or a class narrower.
I feel like the way this would really come up in my code, not even necessarily in what we're going to look at soon, but like my modern, my recent code would be to highlight where I've only tested like the happy case,
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
because I only pass the one value that like I'm currently doing, and then I think, well, I also accommodating these other values, but like I didn't even test those things.
Yeah.
This seems very valuable.
Yeah, and also unused variable for testing. If you have notation that is never actually used in tests, it's usually something that a leftover or a bug against all redundant and use default values and so on. So this is kind of just one command with eight checks to kind of help you simplify APIs of your functions, remove parameters, change parameters, etc. Simplify code. There is that. And let me actually check. There is one thing I wanted to say about DCN fix. By the way, DCN fix actually allows to not just remove the lint rules issues, fix lint rules, but also you can fix unused code. The command will kind of clean up all the unused code. It can clean up unused files and dependencies. So if we run right now the DCN fix command from the root of this project with the unused code type fix, it will remove everything, all unused code, right? But I'm actually not sure if there will be if it will be a clear remove or there will be some warnings, errors because some parts are not updated properly. But we can try. But that probably will be a lot of red things. Just a moment, maybe it actually shows only the reports, right? So I can try to. Let's try it just for the demo. DCN fix lib. Actually, we probably want to have everything right. Yes. DCN fix type unused code. And it will just removed all unused code it could. Yep. So now it kind of removed the fields, the constructors, it removed parameters, it removed again fields, and they removed a bit the constructor. It removed static fields, enum parts, right, unused, never referenced. It removed, this is okay, static methods. So it kind of cleaned up your code in a just 1 second. Yeah, removed
Oh my
everything.
gosh, that is. I'm pretty into
okay. It removed the whole widget right now, so it removed the whole class. It's basically now an empty file. Yeah, so this is how you can clean up your project just very quickly, and the command is also very quick to calculate the unused code and then to remove the unused code after that.
Yeah, not a lot of waiting around for this to do to do its work. It's pretty snappy.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the unused code, and I think there is one more thing I want to show, but I'll probably use the documentation for that. It's will be a little bit more visually correct. Just a moment. Okay, I will use this. And so we have two commands, to be honest. I will actually talk about them both right now. The ones I wanted to mention. Again, the analyze asset, we actually have videos for some commands, people can check them out. But this command analyzes your assets, again, size, if it's incorrect resolution for incorrect, missing, or unused high resolution images. For example, you have 1.0x like the regular, and then you have 2x or like 3x, and then something is wrong with the resolution or it's a missing image, you'll find those issues. Images, it can be added to WebP to reduce the size. It usually helps a lot to reduce the size of images, to reduce the bundle, etc. naming, you can choose the naming for the images if you want. The placement, you can say, I have a folder called icons. I want SVGs in that folder and only SVGs. Then the command will say if something is not an SVG in that folder, it will highlight that. And so on. So that's it, that's checks. And you also have the HTML reporter for that. You will see the sizes, the resolutions, the number of assets, the total size, etc. So, and where they're placed. This is the assets, and this is the structure command. You can analyze your whole project to understand how all files and part files, exports, all relate to each other, how they import, export each other, and kind of build the graph for your full project. You can highlight nodes. You can also build the modules of your projects. If you, for example, you can pass a regular expression that will kind of compress all the imports, exports to a certain folder, and then see how those folders import, export each other. That's like, so that you don't kind of, because in a regular project you have like thousands of files, maybe not thousands, but a lot, and it's really hard to kind of understand the dependencies between files. And with modules, you can collapse all of that into particular folders and then see how folders import, export each other. That helps to visualize dependencies better.
Yeah, would.
That's another thing. So again, everything, it's not kind of a linter, right? It does linting, but it also does a lot of other things to kind of help you improve the code base quality, improve the overall like state of the code base, to get the team on board, to remove unused things, to keep the things in a good shape. So this is the third part, and the fourth part I want to show today quickly also is the dashboards. It helps with the, so we kind of now got all the different issues in our IDEs, and the dashboards are for understanding. Let me check which one of those. Just a moment, I will switch that. Okay. And the dashboards are for visualizing all of that information for your team, or for your like manager, or for your CTO in your company, or for you yourself. You operate with you create projects, and you basically upload the information from your projects here. These commands and the command that uploads and the dashboards, they don't include your code source at all, just the summaries of all the issues and some meta information. For example, how long it will take to fix. You see all the issues categorized into different categories like maintainability, memory leak, potential bugs from the commands and used code. You see the pie chart. This is the latest update from all the projects, the summary from projects. And then you can see issues open over time. You can have different intervals, and you can switch, for example, to different types. And you can see how issues change, how uploaded issues change over time. Same for the baseline, if you have baseline. And then for metrics, you can see how metric values change over time, and kind of understand the current state of all the projects. And then you can go to a certain project, for example, this one, and see for that particular project.
Yeah. So this is on dcm.dev. So
yes,
this is
that's
for teams.
Yes.
Do you recommend that folks like upload, like put in their CI essentially to kind of run some reports and upload them?
Yes. I think the CI is the best. The command that uploads the data, the metadata, it actually supports running locally. So you can kind of start with local upload to get the first data in, and then configure the CI/CD to run maybe daily or weekly to upload data to kind of give you the overview how things change. Because you usually don't really need to look into that part often. You usually work, especially as a developer. You write code, you review pull requests, etc. But the dashboards are usually for like maybe weekly, maybe monthly reviews, or tracking the progress, right? So this is a single project, and you can also see open issues in a summary way or in a detailed way. Again, no source code, just net information, no file paths, nothing like that. It's just the meta information, and also for the metrics as well. You can see the metrics here, and you can view, etc. So this is mostly for observing how the quality of your project changes, or many projects changes through time, over time. And then you can also have a report. For example, you can have a generate. I think you don't see what I'm doing right now, but you can use the built-in browser feature to print the page. It will give you a nice PDF report.
Oh,
And you can kind of share that with the team or with anyone at your company, etc.
right. So this relates to a question that we got about a half an hour ago, but I think the time
Okay.
is now. Are there any metrics which might be valuable strictly for managers or customers, right? If you're doing client work, to convince them to purchase a subscription for the team? Obviously, I think this whole feature set speaks maybe to code, to engineering
Yeah.
managers, whatnot, who want to know the health of their projects. So yeah, anything else that kind of jumps out at you as like, obviously there's interested folks in the chat. They want to know how to add
Okay.
this to their projects.
Sure. I think it depends on if the manager is, I think, have technical background or not. Because from what the experience we have, people with technical background are usually really easy to convince in that regard. From the teams, if the team tries to convince the manager, technical manager, it's usually easier because they understand what better the code quality parts and what can happen if the code base gets into real bad shape and no one actually pays attention to technical debt or tries to kind of get an overview of that. So that's usually the easy part. The hard part is the manager is not technical, but from what I see, this information is usually what is kind of easier to understand when it comes to non-technical folks, especially the reports. As for the metrics, I think I I don't think there is some. So metrics are technical still. So convincing non-technical folks why they
I
would
think
want to look into that.
the aspect here that really jumps out at me is
Mhm.
the measurability and the ability to
That's
demonstrate
fair.
progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way I would approach this would be, maybe you have a certain crash rate in your app
Yes.
and you
Yes.
want to say, let's use DCM for a month and clean up these things. And if our crash rate goes down to a level that we set for ourselves, some goal, if we hit that
Mhm.
goal and we think that DCM was causal in us hitting that goal, then that's pretty good evidence that you might want to stick with it. That's probably how I would approach.
Yeah, actually, I think I have another idea for that is that usually if the project is already on a bad state, you people around, especially those are not developers who don't know the internals of the project, they kind of notice that things are not going really fast. So you can kind of back that
Mhm.
feeling or with the, hey, we actually got the report from the problems of our project. This is like what's happening in the code base. This needs to be addressed because if you don't, we kind of get things even
Grind
worse.
to a
To
halt.
get in,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we can get into a worse state of the code base when things will be even slower than they are right now. This can be another angle because I think this actually real world experience. Let's say that people who actually face um, very old code bases that are really hard to deal with, and they need something to manage all the problems.
Yeah.
So this can
Yeah.
be another angle. Yeah, but also we have, if your app has memory leaks, for example, we have rules for memory leaks. You can enable that, and that can be a starting point to fix maybe performance issues, maybe memory leaks, and then kind of
Mhm.
continue from that, expanding the usage of the tool.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Actually, another thing that came to mind is that what actually non-technical folks understand better is security issues. We don't have any security rules right
Mm.
now, but we'll probably have that at some point. I think very soon. Commands to analyze for security issues and maybe the rules. And I think that also can be another angle that if you have rules for security, that is also something that the team would want to avoid introducing. That can be another point of why the tool can be or might be introduced, added to the team's tool set, to the team. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I was just brainstorming what kind of security rules I would start with if I was in your shoes. And that's
Yeah.
a pretty interesting software challenge itself, just figuring out how to isolate and define security problems.
Yeah, it's a little bit different from warnings and errors and style issues. It's a separate thing. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's like you put this in local storage without encrypting it first, or but like how do you define which things can and can't go? That'd be fun. That sounds like a fun challenge.
Yeah. For example, you have maybe you have a password stored in a string, right? But how you detect it as a password and not something you have a hash like there are many questions, many questions to answer. Yes, that's a fair point. So actually, I think the tools demo is, I think I showed most of the parts. We also have IDE parts, ICD parts, etc. But they are for maybe discovering if folks are interested. But I think now it's time to give the wheel to you and see how you.
All right. Let me move some windows around.
And just for the folks that are watching, Craig never tried to install the tool, never used it, so it will be the first time experience for him as well to get it from the start to the working point, I hope.
So. Yeah, that'll be. Oh, I could do. Maybe I'll put this. I'll point this at the multi-pong game that I made for a talk quite a while ago. Let me actually switch to the correct screen here. Oh, this isn't what I want to do. That's what I do when I don't have a guest. I will share my screen. It will be the entire screen. And there we are. So, the biggest terminal in the world. These are just the Git things that I have checked out right now. I think I'll do this multi-pong project. That one sounds appropriate. So let's go code multi-pong. Oh, by the way, folks in the chat are wondering, what theme are you using?
For me, it's called Winter is Coming. Oh, sorry, it's a different. No, this different laptop. Just a moment. Winter is Coming. It's a different one. This one is Night Owl, I think. Color theme. Yes, it's Night Owl. It's not the built-in, the default theme, but you can find it on GitHub, I think, and install it. Yes, it's Night Owl.
Do I have I wonder if I have a pub-get that runs through all of these.
Yeah, it's a usual problem, I think, in a
I haven't opened this code base in forever.
Yeah.
I don't seem to have one. Okay. All right. So I'll just run it myself. CD frontline. This one's server side, so it should be Dart pub-get. I'm going to try to get this down to not hundreds of errors before we turn on Dart code metrics.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So, all right. Yeah. 4 directories I think we'll need to go into. So this one would be Flutter pub-get, of course. Hopefully there's not just horrendous problems with how old this code is. Game server. That's certainly server side, Dart pub-get. And then at the same time, as we run it on the next one here, oh, we're almost done. Share doesn't seem to have any problems. Dart pub-get. So I will now, in a new window, go to dcm.dev. And maybe I'll put this on half the screen. Should we watch the demo?
Actually, yeah, again, I think it's 7 minutes or something. Yeah, it's actually Majid voicing it and showing it. So if you want to say hi.
Yeah, we got to watch that. All right, where's the installation guide?
For the mobile or part, yes, you need to go there and to the docs, the force. Yes, and then you'll go.
There we go. Oh, I can use brew. Ooh.
Yeah. It's a compiled executable. You can basically use brew for that. Yeah. I hope brew won't be asking for you to update the dependencies right now, but let's see.
Yeah, it probably will, because
It's usually how it goes. Yeah.
a little alias. BF stands for brew fix, because I have to change
Uh,
permissions on my computer to
oh,
all right, I'll do this.
okay.
All right, so brew tab CQ Labs. And we can just chat with everyone about exciting, fun things while brew cooks a little bit.
Yeah. I actually don't have
So
chat open, so I don't know if people are asking questions.
I've been forwarding them along to you. One person says
Okay.
Jazz's world is unrelated to. I'm gonna run the next command. Brew install DCM. Unrelated to DCM specifically, should Dart be more connected to the native browser APIs like JavaScript? And then next, answering their own question, Dart needs deeper integration to match JavaScript's flexibility. So one thing I would say is that Dart can compile itself to JavaScript. So Dart, and there's a rich JS interop functionality. So Dart has what you're talking about. I'm guessing you then mean Flutter. Okay, we're not installing a specific version. We're not upgrading. We're not troubleshooting. All right, next, let's
You did installation,
set
right?
up your
You
IDE,
did.
I guess.
I missed that part, I guess.
What's
You
that?
have the
Sorry,
executable, right? You have the executable, right? You have.
I brew installed it. Is
Can you
what
just
test?
type DCM? Can you just type DCM into your, yes, that would be the check.
All right, there it is.
Yes, that's good. Okay.
All right, so now I'm on to the extensions, and I want to install DCM. Is that what I'll type?
Yeah, this
There
should
it
be,
is.
yes, good to go.
Look at you with the 5-star rating. Excellent. Oh, I don't know if I trust you.
Okay.
All right, so it's installed, looking good.
Yeah, so now you need to activate the tool and you're good to go.
Oh, that's right. Okay, is that going to be no? License activation. There we go.
Yes.
Okay, so I will type dish, and then I will type the key that you sent me. Oops, I will actually put my screen into sleep mode first. All right, grabbing the key. And this key is apparently single use, so the fact that it's becoming publicly visible. Oh, my screen stopped being shared when I put it to sleep. So I will have to do that again. Present. Not a slide. Oh my gosh. Share screen. Whole screen. Get back here. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
Well, I successfully didn't show the key on accident.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, DCM license. There we go.
Yep.
And blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Since we are not installing the tool on CI/CD or etc., you don't basically need any other steps. So it should okay. You need to enable the rules. Obviously, yes. That's the part.
All right. Do I have a top level one? I can't remember. I guess I'll just put it in the client to start.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see here. Now you had to restart the thing every now and then. So when would I expect it to kind of take off? Also, I've opened one level higher than that project in VS Code. Is that a problem?
It shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
But I'm curious why I don't see any issues right now, unless
I
you
guess
have
I just wrote
any.
perfect code.
Yeah. Unless it's a perfect code.
Do, 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 do.
Can you please try to restart? Yeah, the.
I think I'm just going to restart all of. I think
Yeah,
something said at some point you have to restart your window, and I didn't do it. All right, this number, was it lower before?
It was. Yeah, it's still.
Oh wait, this is changed code. That's
okay.
There we
Now
go.
yes.
Now we're getting them.
And it's only the recommended 140. Technically, we can try even more if you if you want to try all of the rules.
Oh yeah, it doesn't. That's true. Okay. This screen, oh gosh, this is going to be so funny. All the insane things that I did. This stream subscription is not assigned to a variable, which may cause a memory leak. Well, I guess
Yeah,
it's logging in the
this
main
case,
method,
yes,
so
yes, this
that's
is the
why I
main
didn't
method.
appear. String interpolation is available. It's potentially nullable. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, yeah, a lot of a lot of issues. Let's see here. Field is not disposed. Yeah, this one I think I also knew. Like I knew this was going to live for the entire life of the app,
Okay.
but still, like man, probably one day that might change. So,
Yeah.
or I might actually just be wrong that it's like, oh, actually, there's a way that it gets rebuilt. Okay, so how should we play around here to kind of get more out of this? Like there were a bunch of other commands you ran, but I don't remember what they all were. So what are some other kind of fun ones we might run?
Let's start with the unused code. We actually can run it from the root without any configuration. Just this, you can type DCM UC. It's a shortcut for the command. Just for you. Okay, you want to get to the root.
I was actually just in the totally wrong directory entirely. Okay, so say again. DCM.
DCM UC. Just use two letters UC. Yes, it's a
Unused code.
short name.
Yeah.
Yes. Short and then you can just
was
pass
path?
the. Yes, the pass. And
okay, I'll make this a little
do
bigger
that.
yet. All right, so now
just 27. Okay, not that bad.
Why did I write so much code that I didn't use?
Yeah, that's a good question, I guess.
Actually, what probably happened is it was once used and then
or that, yeah.
And then I refactored away from needing it, which is why. Oh yeah, so this is wrong in multiple levels. Okay,
Yeah.
This is great. I love the ability of this to highlight how your own idea has just gotten away from yourself. Right?
Yeah.
As I'm looking at a lot of this, it's like
obviously you didn't want to do that,
kill
right?
game. Yeah, this is a debug method actually.
Yeah.
I remember. So it's definitely unused when I'm not actively debugging it. I wonder how I would annotate that. I guess maybe this would be an ignore.
Yeah, you can actually add it just as for the linter rules, you can add an ignore saying ignore unused code and it will not report it. Yeah. It's also works.
Unused field God mode. I gave myself the power and then I didn't use it.
Yeah. Actually, there is another different mode for this command. There is also a mode to that. So by default, it doesn't analyze like hierarchies of classes because once you add a hierarchy and overrides, it becomes really hard to find unused method or field if it's overridden in the parent is used instead of the child. So this check is just behind the flag right now. So you can enable that is the flag and get even more probably warnings in some cases.
Nice.
Do you want to run other things or?
Well, we're kind of at we're at time a little bit here,
okay,
but this was that was awesome. A great tour. Obviously, I think an extremely helpful product that I do want to start using. And I think chat was pretty into it. A lot of folks that were kind of oohing and awing as we were going. So well done there, building a great project. But I'll let you, Dmitry, have the final word before we sign off. But before that, just thanks for coming on and walking us all through DCM.
Yeah, thank you a lot for having me. It was a pleasure to show the tool to the community, and I really enjoyed the showing different parts and answering the question. It was great. And again, to everyone who wants to try the tool, there are multiple ways. Feel free to reach out. And I'm happy to assist and answer any questions you have. And yeah, that's been actually I didn't expect it to be that long. I thought we will end sooner with the demo, but yeah. Thanks for everyone who was watching, listening. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, I was interrupting you every now and then with questions, and chat was asking questions. So yeah, this is a good question.
Yeah, just right on time at the end of the
right.
Yeah.
Welcome, Ali. Yeah, Dart code metrics. That's the topic of the last 2 hours. Well, folks, thanks so much for watching this episode of Observable Flutter, and thanks for following along, asking good questions, obviously being engaged. It's just amazing. I appreciate that. Dmitry, appreciate that. Next week, I do believe we will have a stream. I have not yet figured out what it will be. That might mean it'll be last second, just coding, but also a topic may emerge. So we'll all have to wait and find out for ourselves. But folks, until then, please do have a great week and happy fluttering.
Bye. Okay. I didn't.